The Morning Star drifted through the empty darkness of space like a tired old bird. Its hull was covered in patches and repair marks from years of hard work. Captain Ji-Ho Park sat in his command chair drinking cold coffee from a metal cup. He watched the stars pass by on the main screen, his eyes tired but alert. The ship was 3 days out from the nearest colony. They were carrying medical supplies and food to the outer settlements. It was boring work, but it paid the bills. Ji-Ho had been running cargo for 5 years now, ever since he left the military. He preferred boring. Boring meant safe. "Captain, we're approaching the Helix Nebula sector," Mirai Kim called out from the navigation station. Her fingers danced across the control panel, checking their course. "Should be smooth sailing from here," Ji-Ho nodded. The nebula made a pretty backdrop, all purple and blue clouds of gas that stretched for millions of miles. Tourist ships sometimes came out this far just to take pictures, but this route was usually empty. Most commercial traffic stuck to the main lanes where the patrol ships kept watch. Down in the engine room, Hyun Lee was doing his regular checks. The young engineer hummed an old song while he worked, making sure every system was running properly. The Morning Star was old, but Hyun kept her running like she was fresh from the shipyard. He treated the ship like it was alive, talking to the engines when they acted up. Everything was peaceful, quiet, normal. Then the alarms started screaming. "Contact," Mirai shouted, her voice suddenly sharp. "Big one, coming in fast from behind the nebula. It's already on top of us." Ji-Ho's coffee cup hit the floor. He was on his feet in a second, his military training kicking in like it had never left. "Battle stations! Hyun, get up here now!" The main screen changed, showing a massive ship dropping out of faster-than-light speed right in front of them. It was 3 times the size of the Morning Star, covered in weapon ports and armor plating. The design was Vrellan, the reptilian species that controlled this part of space through fear and violence. "They're hailing us," Mirai said, her hands already moving to defensive controls. "Audio only. Put them on," Ji-Ho ordered, settling back into his chair. He forced his breathing to stay calm and steady. A harsh clicking voice filled the bridge. "Human vessel, this is Commander Thex of the Vrellan warship Bloodfang. You will shut down your engines immediately and prepare to be boarded. Your cargo now belongs to us. Your crew will be sold to the mining colonies. Do not resist or we will destroy your ship and take what we want from the wreckage." Mirai looked at Ji-Ho, her eyes wide. Hyun burst onto the bridge, breathing hard from running up the ladders. They both waited for their captain's response. Ji-Ho leaned forward, pressing the communication button. His voice was calm, almost friendly. "Commander Thex, I'm Captain Ji-Ho Park of the Morning Star. We're a registered civilian cargo vessel carrying medical supplies to colony worlds. We're protected under galactic maritime law. I suggest you move along and find another target." There was a pause. Then harsh laughter came through the speakers. "Maritime law out here? You are far from any authority, human. We have encountered your kind before. Soft, weak, always hiding behind your treaties and laws. But there is no law this far from your precious Earth. Only strength matters here." More laughter filled the bridge. Other Vrellan voices joined in, mocking the humans. "Last chance, Captain," Thex continued. "Surrender now and we will be merciful. Your crew will only be slaves for 10 years. Resist and we will space you all and take your ship anyway. You have 30 seconds to decide." Ji-Ho looked at his crew. Mirai's jaw was tight with anger. Hyun's hands were clenched into fists. They had all heard stories about what happened to humans who fell into Vrellan hands. The slave mines were death sentences that just took longer than a bullet. "Captain?" Mirai asked quietly. "Orders?" Ji-Ho took a deep breath. He thought about his past, about the years he spent fighting in the war. He thought about why he bought this particular ship, why he kept the old military identification codes hidden in the computer systems. He thought about the weapons that were concealed behind false panels in the cargo bay. He pressed the communication button again. "Commander Thex, I'm going to make you a counteroffer. Turn your ship around right now and leave this sector. If you do that, I'll forget this ever happened. We'll both go our separate ways and nobody has to die today." The laughter stopped. There was silence for a moment. Then Thex's voice came back, dripping with contempt. "Die? You threaten me? A cargo hauler threatens a warship? Your arrogance will cost you everything, human." The Bloodfang opened fire. Bright red energy beams lanced across space, passing just above the Morning Star. Warning shots, meant to scare them into submission. They're charging weapons for a real strike, Mirai reported, her voice tight. Targeting our engines. 20 seconds until they fire again. Jiho stood up slowly. His tired expression melted away, replaced by something cold and hard. The peaceful cargo captain disappeared, and what remained was the military officer he used to be. The one who had fought in 37 combat missions. The one who had never lost a ship under his command. Hyun, he said quietly, his voice carrying absolute authority. Access code Crimson 7. Bring all weapon systems online. Full military power to shields and engines. Hyun's eyes went wide. Then he grinned. His fingers flew across the control panel, entering codes that hadn't been used in 5 years. Yes, sir. Activating now. Mirai, as soon as weapons are online, I want evasive pattern Delta 4. Make us a hard target. Understood, Captain. The Morning Star began to change. Hidden panels in the hull slid open with mechanical precision. The civilian transponder shut down, replaced by military identification signals. Pulse cannons emerged from concealed ports. Torpedo tubes loaded ammunition that had been sleeping in the magazine for years. The ship's engines suddenly flared with blue-white light, much brighter than any cargo vessel should have. The reactor, which had been running at 30%, jumped to full combat power. On the Bloodfang, alarm system started screaming. Commander Thek stared at his sensor displays in confusion. The weak cargo ship was suddenly showing power readings that matched a military corvette. Weapon signatures appeared where there should have been nothing but empty cargo holds. What is this? Thex hissed. This is impossible. It's a cargo ship. His sensor officer's voice was shaking. Commander, the human vessel is not what it appears. I'm reading military-grade shields, active weapon systems, and engine output far beyond civilian specifications. Sir, this is a warship. Thex's mind raced. How could this be? The ship looked like a simple freighter, old, worn down, harmless. But the sensors didn't lie. He had made a terrible mistake. On the bridge of the Morning Star, Jiho looked at his crew. Hyun gave him a thumbs up from the engineering station. Mirai's hands were steady on the controls, ready to move. They were all together like they had been in the old days. Commander Thex, Jiho said into the communication channel, his voice like ice. I gave you a chance to walk away. You should have taken it. Hyun, bring weapons online. Mirai, combat protocols. Let's teach them why you don't corner humans. The Morning Star, no longer pretending to be a helpless cargo ship, turned to face the Bloodfang, its weapons locked on target. The hunter had become the hunted, and the Vrellans were about to learn a very painful lesson about humanity. Sometimes the sheep has teeth. The first shot from the Morning Star hit the Bloodfang like a hammer. The Vrellan warship's shields flared bright orange as the pulse cannon struck home. Commander Thex grabbed his command chair to keep from falling as the ship shook. Return fire, he roared at his weapons officer. All batteries. Destroy that ship. But the Morning Star was already moving. Mirai's fingers danced across her controls, sending the ship into a spiral pattern that made it almost impossible to target. The old corvette moved like a fighter, not like the slow cargo hauler it pretended to be. Vrellan weapons fire cut through empty space where the ship had been seconds before. They're too fast, the Vrellan weapons officer shouted. I can't get a lock. Jiho stood at the center of his bridge watching the tactical display with calm eyes. Years of combat experience guided his decisions. He could see the pattern of the enemy's movements, predict where they would turn, where they would fire. Mirai, bring us around to their port side, he said quietly. Hyun, charge torpedo tubes 1 and 2. On my mark. Ready, Captain, Hyun called out from engineering. His voice was excited. This was what the Morning Star was built for. All those years of quiet cargo runs had been boring for a ship that was made for war. The Morning Star curved through space, its engines burning bright. Another salvo from the Bloodfang missed by hundreds of meters. Jiho waited, counting seconds in his head. He needed the perfect angle. Now, he ordered. Fire torpedoes. 2 bright streaks of light shot from the Morning Star. The torpedoes crossed the distance in seconds, slamming into the Bloodfang's shield generators. Explosions rippled across the Vrellan ship's hull. Their shields flickered and died. Direct hit, Mirai shouted. Their shields are down. Commander Thex felt fear creep into his chest. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Humans were supposed to be easy targets, soft creatures who had only recently reached the stars. The reports from other captains said they surrendered quickly when threatened. But this human wasn't surrendering. This human was fighting like a veteran warrior, Evasive action, Thex ordered. Get us out of their firing range. The Bloodfang tried to turn, its massive bulk rotating slowly, but the Morning Star stayed on them like a hunting dog. Every time the Vrellan ship moved, the human ship was already there, firing with precise accuracy. Jiho's mind was clear and focused. His hands moved across his controls without hesitation. He wasn't thinking anymore, just reacting, letting his training guide him. It felt familiar, like putting on an old jacket that still fit perfectly. In his mind, he saw flashes of memory. Another battle years ago, his ship surrounded by enemy vessels during the border war. The sound of alarms, the smell of smoke, the voices of his crew shouting reports. He remembered the fear, the determination, the absolute refusal to give up. He had been younger then, a lieutenant commanding a patrol corvette on the frontier. The Kavesh had ambushed his small fleet with overwhelming numbers. 3 corvettes against 10 enemy raiders. The odds had been impossible, but Jiho had fought anyway. He used every trick he knew, every tactic from the training manuals. He targeted their weak points, used asteroids for cover, made them think he was retreating when he was really setting up ambushes. By the end of that battle, 7 Kavesh ships were destroyed and the other 3 had fled. Jiho had earned his captain's rank that day. He had also earned scars that still ached when the artificial gravity fluctuated. After the war ended, he tried to go home, tried to be normal, but normal didn't fit anymore. He couldn't sleep without hearing alarms in his dreams, couldn't sit still without checking tactical displays that weren't there. The peace was harder than the war had been, so he bought a decommissioned military ship. The government was selling them cheap, trying to reduce the fleet size after the war. The Morning Star had been sitting in a scrapyard, waiting to be torn apart for parts. Jiho saw it and knew it was meant for him. He filed the proper paperwork, registered it as a civilian cargo vessel, and started running supplies to the colonies. But he never removed the weapons, never disabled the military-grade systems. He just hid them, covered them with false panels and dummy circuits, just in case his crew knew what they were getting into. Hyun had been an engineering petty officer during the war, keeping damaged ships running with spare parts and hope. He joined Jiho because civilian engineering was too boring. Mirai had worked in fleet intelligence, plotting courses and predicting enemy movements. She joined because she missed the excitement. They were all veterans who couldn't quite let go of who they used to be. Captain, they're trying to come about, Mirai called out, snapping Jiho back to the present. They're going to broadside us. Let them try, Jiho said calmly. All power to forward shields. Hyun, I need maximum power to the main cannons. You got it, boss. Hyun was having the time of his life. He rerouted power from life support, from the cargo bay lights, from anything that wasn't immediately necessary. The ship's reactor hummed with energy, feeding it all into the weapon systems. The Bloodfang completed its turn. Every gun on its port side aimed at the Morning Star. Commander Thex grinned, showing rows of sharp teeth. Now the human would pay for their arrogance. Fire everything, he ordered. The Vrellan warship unleashed a storm of energy. Dozens of weapons fired at once, lighting up space with destructive power. It was enough firepower to destroy 3 ships the size of the Morning Star, but Jiho had been counting on this. He knew the Vrellans would try to end the fight with one massive strike. It's what he would have done. Mirai, now! The Morning Star dove, its nose pointing down relative to the Vrellan ship. Most of the enemy fire passed through empty space above them. The few shots that connected hit the reinforced forward shields, which absorbed the impact. Then the Morning Star fired back. Its main cannons, powered by every spare bit of energy Hyun could find, unleashed a concentrated barrage. The shots hit the Bloodfang exactly where the torpedoes had struck before, right at the disabled shield generators. Metal tore like paper. Explosions rippled through the Vrellan ship's interior. Secondary detonations followed as ammunition stores cooked off. The Bloodfang's engine section went dark as power systems failed. Commander Thex was thrown from his chair. Emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in red. Smoke filled the bridge. His crew was shouting reports, all of them bad. Engine power at 12%. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7. Weapons offline. I repeat, weapons are offline. Thex pulled himself up, his clawed hands gripping the ruined command console. Through the smoke, he could see the Morning Star on his view screen, circling his crippled ship like a shark. His communication panel crackled to life. The human captain's voice came through, still calm, still controlled. Commander Thex, your ship is disabled. Your weapons are offline. Your engines are dead. You have two options. Option 1. Sit quietly while I decide what to do with you. Option 2. Try something stupid and I'll finish what I started. Choose wisely. Thex wanted to roar, to scream defiance, to order his crew to fight to the last. But he wasn't stupid. Pride had already cost him his ship. More pride would cost him his life and the lives of his crew. We surrender, he said, the words tasting like poison. We will comply with your demands, human. There was silence for a moment. Then Jiho's voice came back. Smart choice. Now you're going to send out a distress signal. You're going to tell anyone who's listening exactly what happened here. You attacked a human vessel without cause. You threatened civilians, and you lost badly. Do you understand? Yes, Thex hissed. I understand. Good, because the galaxy needs to know something, Commander. Humans might seem soft. We might seem easy to push around. But we got to the stars by fighting for every inch. We survived wars, disasters, and extinction events. We didn't get here by being weak. Jiho paused, looking at his crew. They looked back at him with pride and respect. So here's today's lesson, he continued. When you see a human ship, you can choose to be our friend or our enemy. But if you choose enemy, you better be ready for a fight, because we don't surrender. We don't give up. And we definitely don't let pirates take our freedom. The communication cut off. The Morning Star moved away from the crippled Bloodfang, keeping its weapons trained on the Vrellan ship, ready in case they tried anything foolish. Inside the bridge, Jiho sat back down in his chair. His hands were shaking slightly now that the adrenaline was fading. Mireille and Hyun were both grinning like children. Hell of a fight, Captain, Hyun said. Yeah, Jiho agreed. Hell of a fight, but he knew it wasn't over. The distress signal was already broadcasting. Other ships would come. This was about to get much more complicated. The distress signal from the Bloodfang rippled through space at faster than light speed. Within minutes, it reached dozens of ships across multiple star systems. Some ignored it, not caring about Vrellan problems. Others listened with great interest. On the bridge of the Morning Star, Mireille tracked the signals spread on her monitors. Captain, that distress call is going everywhere. We're going to have company soon. Jiho nodded. He had expected this. How long until someone arrives? Hard to say. Depends on who responds and from where. Could be an hour. Could be 10 minutes. Keep scanning. I want to know who's coming before they get here. Hyun climbed up from the engine room, wiping grease from his hands. Captain, we took some hits during that fight. Nothing critical, but our starboard shield generator needs repairs. If we have to fight again, we'll be vulnerable on that side. Do what you can, Jiho said. But be ready to drop everything if we need to move fast. The next 20 minutes were tense. The Morning Star kept its weapons trained on the Bloodfang, circling the disabled warship like a guard dog. Inside the Vrellan vessel, Commander Thex and his crew worked desperately to repair their systems, but the damage was too severe. They weren't going anywhere without a tow. Contact, Mireille suddenly announced. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Reading 3 vessels, destroyer class. They're human. Jiho felt relief wash over him. At least the first arrivals were friendly. Hail them. The communication channel opened and a familiar voice filled the bridge. This is Captain Daehyun Choi of the human destroyer Perseverance. We picked up a Vrellan distress signal mentioning a conflict with a human vessel. Please identify yourself. A grin spread across Jiho's face. He knew that voice. Daehyun, you old dog. It's Jiho Park. Good to hear your voice. There was a pause. Then laughter erupted from the speakers. Jiho, is that really you? I should have known. Only you could get into trouble out here. What did you do to that Vrellan ship? Their distress signal said they were attacked by a civilian cargo vessel. They attacked me first, Jiho replied. I just defended myself. It's not my fault they brought a warship to a fair fight. Stand by. We're coming alongside. The 3 human destroyers moved into formation around the Morning Star. They were beautiful ships, sleek and powerful, bristling with weapons. Jiho felt a pang of nostalgia looking at them. He had commanded ships like those once. The Perseverance came up on the Morning Star's port side. Through his view screen, Jiho could see the destroyer's bridge. Daehyun stood there, older than Jiho remembered but still carrying himself with military precision. They had served together during the border war, fighting side by side in a dozen battles. Send me your sensor logs, Daehyun requested. I need to see exactly what happened here. Jiho transmitted the complete recording of the engagement. Every sensor reading, every communication, every shot fired. The evidence was clear and undeniable. While Daehyun reviewed the data, his sensor officer called out a warning. "Captain, we have more contacts inbound. Reading Vrellan signatures. It's a battle group. 2 cruisers and a carrier." The mood on both bridges immediately shifted. This was about to become a much bigger problem. "All ships, battle stations," Daehyun ordered calmly. "Form defensive formation around the Morning Star. Weapons hot but hold fire unless fired upon." The human destroyers moved with practiced precision, creating a protective triangle around Jiho's ship. Their shields came online, their weapons tracking the incoming Vrellan vessels. Minutes later, the Vrellan battle group dropped out of hyperspace. They were massive ships, each one larger than the human destroyers. Their hulls were covered in aggressive angles and weapon ports, designed to intimidate as much as to fight. "This is Admiral Kreth of the Vrellan Imperial Fleet," a deep, hissing voice announced. "We have come for our ship and our crew. Human vessels, you will withdraw immediately, or there will be consequences." Daehyun's response was calm but firm. "Admiral, with respect, this is neutral space. The Bloodfang attacked a civilian vessel without provocation. Captain Park acted in self-defense, which is his legal right under galactic maritime law. Your commander violated multiple treaties." "You dare lecture me about law?" Kreth's voice was full of contempt. "Your vessel destroyed a military warship. This is an act of war. Surrender the human captain to us for judgment, or we will take him by force." The human destroyer's weapons locked onto the Vrellan ships. The Vrellan ships locked onto the human vessels. Space became a powder keg waiting for a spark. On the Morning Star, Mireille watched her tactical display with growing worry. "Captain, if shooting starts, we're in the worst spot. Right in the middle of the crossfire." "I know," Jiho said quietly. He opened a channel to Daehyun. "You don't have to do this. It's my fight. I can surrender, face their justice system. Don't start a war over me." "Not a chance," Daehyun replied immediately. "You defended yourself against pirates. I've reviewed the logs. You followed every rule, gave them every chance to back down. I'm not letting them take you for doing the right thing. But your orders? My orders are to protect human civilians in neutral space." "That's exactly what I'm doing." Jiho felt something tight in his chest loosen. It had been a long time since he had felt like part of something bigger than himself. The isolation of running cargo alone had made him forget what it was like to have people who had your back. The standoff continued. Neither side was willing to back down, but neither side wanted to fire the first shot. A battle here would likely escalate into something much larger, possibly even a war between the two species. Then Mireille called out again. "New contact, single ship, unknown configuration. It's broadcasting Galactic Council identification codes." Everyone watched as a strange vessel dropped out of hyperspace between the two fleets. It was unlike any ship there, all smooth curves and elegant lines. The design was clearly from the Trilixian species, the insectoid beings who often served as mediators in galactic disputes. "This is Arbitrator Kess of the Galactic Council," a clicking, translated voice announced. "All vessels will power down weapons immediately. We have been monitoring this sector due to reports of increased piracy. We have independent sensor data of the entire engagement between the Bloodfang and the Morning Star. Both fleets will stand down while we conduct an official investigation." Admiral Kreth hissed with frustration. "This is a Vrellan matter. The Council has no authority here." "Incorrect," Kess replied. "This incident occurred in neutral space, involves multiple species, and concerns violations of galactic maritime law. The Council has complete authority. If you refuse to comply, both your fleet and the human fleet will face sanctions from all Council members. This includes trade embargoes, travel restrictions, and military censure." It was a serious threat. Both humans and Vrellans depended on trade with dozens of other species. Economic isolation would hurt both sides badly. Daehyun was the first to respond. "The human fleet will comply. We are powering down weapons and standing by for investigation." Kreth took longer to answer. Jiho could imagine the Admiral weighing his options, trying to find a way to save face. Finally, he spoke. "The Vrellan fleet will also comply, but we demand justice for this attack on our vessel." "Justice will be determined by evidence, not by demands," Kess stated. "I am now reviewing all available sensor data, communication logs, and testimony from both sides. All ships will remain in position until my investigation is complete." The Trilixian ship began scanning everything. Its advanced sensors reached out, gathering data from every ship present. Kess was known in the galaxy as fair but absolutely thorough. Nothing would be hidden, nothing overlooked. On the Morning Star, Jiho finally allowed himself to relax slightly. The immediate danger of violence had passed. Now it would come down to evidence and law, not guns and threats. Mirai Hyun, he said quietly, "Good work today. Whatever happens next, I want you both to know I'm proud to serve with you." Mirai smiled. "We're not done yet, Captain. Still got to see how this plays out." "True, but I'm not worried. The truth is on our side," Hyun laughed. "The truth and about a dozen torpedoes we put into their ship." "That too," Jiho agreed. Outside, the fleets waited in tense silence. Ships that had been ready to kill each other minutes ago now sat still, watching the neutral Trilixian vessel work. Somewhere in that strange ship, Arbitrator Kess was examining every detail of the battle. Every word spoken, every shot fired. The fate of Captain Jiho Park, and possibly the peace between two species, hung in the balance. But Jiho had learned something important over his years of military service. Sometimes you had to trust in the system. Sometimes you had to believe that doing the right thing would be enough. He had defended himself and his crew against an illegal attack. He had followed the rules. He had given the Vrellans every opportunity to walk away. Now he would face judgment. And unlike Commander Thex, Jiho wasn't afraid of the truth. The investigation would reveal everything. And when it did, the galaxy would see exactly what happened when someone made the mistake of attacking a human ship. The waiting was the worst part. For 3 hours, all the ships floated in silence while Arbitrator Kess examined every piece of evidence. Inside the Morning Star, Jiho paced back and forth on the bridge. Mirai worked on navigation updates they didn't need. Hyun checked systems that were already working perfectly. They were all nervous, even though they knew they had done nothing wrong. Finally, Kess's voice came through on all channels. "I have completed my investigation. All commanding officers and crew of the Bloodfang and Morning Star will connect to this conference channel. What I'm about to present is the official finding of the Galactic Council." Jiho took a deep breath and sat down in his command chair. On his view screen, multiple windows appeared. He could see Daehyun on the Perseverance, Admiral Kreth on his flagship, Commander Thex on the damaged Bloodfang, and the strange, insect-like form of Arbitrator Kess on the Council ship. "I will present the facts in chronological order," Kess began. Her translated voice was neutral and precise. At 1400 hours Standard Galactic Time, the cargo vessel Morning Star was traveling through neutral space on a registered flight path. All documentation was in order. The vessel was properly marked as civilian and was carrying legal cargo. Images appeared on everyone's screens, showing the Morning Star's flight plan and registration documents. Everything was legal and correct. At 1417 hours, the Vrellan warship Bloodfang approached the Morning Star from concealment behind the Helix Nebula. The Bloodfang did not broadcast its presence or attempt peaceful contact. Instead, it immediately demanded surrender and threatened the crew with slavery. Audio played of Commander Thex's original message. His harsh voice filled with threats and contempt. Several of the human officers frowned as they listened. Even some of Kreth's crew looked uncomfortable. Captain Jiho Park attempted peaceful resolution, Kess continued. He informed Commander Thex of his legal protections and suggested the Vrellan vessel leave peacefully. This offer was rejected with mockery. More audio played, Jiho's calm voice offering a way out, Thex's laughter in response. Commander Thex then fired warning shots at the Morning Star. Under galactic maritime law, firing weapons at a civilian vessel in neutral space is a hostile act. At this point, Captain Park had legal authority to defend himself. The sensor logs appeared, showing the Vrellan weapons fire clearly. There was no way to argue with the evidence. The Morning Star then revealed itself to be a decommissioned military corvette operating under civilian authority. This is completely legal. Many retired military officers purchased such vessels. Captain Park maintained all proper documentation and registration. He was required to inform authorities of his ship's capabilities, which he did. He was not required to advertise this information to potential attackers. Kreth stirred at this point. The human deceived us. The ship appeared civilian but was really military. Incorrect, Kess replied firmly. The ship is civilian. It is owned by a private citizen, registered as a cargo vessel, and operates under civilian trade licenses. The fact that it retains defensive capabilities is irrelevant. Many species retrofit their ships with weapons for protection in dangerous regions. This is legal and common. Jiho felt relief spread through his chest. The law was on his side, Kess continued. Captain Park gave Commander Thex multiple warnings before returning fire. He explained the consequences of continued aggression. These warnings were ignored. Only after the Bloodfang prepared to fire with intent to disable or destroy the Morning Star did Captain Park engage in active combat. The battle footage played. Everyone watched as the Morning Star fought with precision and skill. Each shot was carefully aimed, each maneuver calculated. There was no unnecessary destruction, no cruelty, just professional military action. Captain Park disabled the Bloodfang and then ceased fire. He did not destroy the ship when he could have. He accepted their surrender and prevented further loss of life. His actions throughout were measured, proportional, and legal. Kess paused, letting that sink in. Then her tone became harder. Commander Thex, on the other hand, violated multiple treaties. He attacked a civilian vessel without provocation in neutral space. He threatened slavery, which is illegal under Council law. He ignored warnings and continued aggressive action even when offered peaceful alternatives. His actions brought dishonor to the Vrellan fleet and endangered the peace between our species. Thex's face on the screen was pale. He looked sick. His career was over, and he knew it. Admiral Kreth spoke up, his voice carefully controlled. Arbitrator Kess, while I accept your findings regarding the engagement itself, I must protest the human secrecy. If the Morning Star had properly announced its military capabilities, this entire situation could have been avoided. Perhaps, Kess acknowledged, but Captain Park had no legal obligation to broadcast his ship's defensive capabilities to every pirate in the sector. Would you have your civilian vessels announce their weaknesses to criminals? This argument is illogical. Several of the human officers smiled at that. Mirai quietly pumped her fist in celebration. Furthermore, Kess continued, I must address the larger pattern. This is the 17th reported incident of Vrellan vessels attacking ships in neutral space over the past 6 months. The Council has been monitoring this situation with growing concern. This incident provides clear evidence of systematic piracy conducted by Vrellan military forces. Kreth's expression darkened. This was worse than just one commander's mistake. This was about his entire fleet's reputation. Therefore, my ruling is as follows, Kess announced formally. Captain Jiho Park and the crew of the Morning Star are completely cleared of any wrongdoing. They acted in lawful self-defense. Commander Thex and the crew of the Bloodfang are guilty of piracy, attempted kidnapping, and violations of the Neutral Space Treaty. They will be remanded to Vrellan military justice for punishment. Jiho closed his eyes and let out a long breath. It was over. They had won. Additionally, Kess said, Admiral Kreth will issue a formal apology to Captain Park and pay reparations for damages to the Morning Star, emotional distress, and lost cargo time. The amount will be determined by Council assessors. Failure to comply will result in the Vrellan Empire being censured by the Council and facing trade sanctions. Kreth's jaw clenched, but he nodded stiffly. He had no choice. Fighting the Council's ruling would hurt his entire species economically. This ruling is final and binding, Kess concluded. All parties will comply immediately. This conference is ended, the communication windows closed. On the Morning Star's bridge, Hyun let out a whoop of joy. We did it. We actually did it. Mirai was grinning widely. Never doubted it for a second, Captain. Jiho smiled, feeling tension he didn't know he'd been carrying finally release. A moment later, Daehyun's face appeared on his private channel. Congratulations, old friend, Daehyun said warmly. Though I have to say only you could turn a simple cargo run into an interstellar incident. I keep things interesting, Jiho replied. Thanks for showing up when you did. Things could have gone badly without the fleet here. That's what we do. Take care of our own. Daehyun paused, his expression becoming more serious. Listen, Jiho, I know you left the military to find peace. But we could use someone like you back in the fleet, someone with your experience and skills. The offer stands if you ever want to come back. Jiho considered it. For a moment he imagined returning to active duty, commanding a destroyer again, being part of a crew larger than 3 people, having the structure and purpose of military life. But then he looked around his small bridge, at Mirai, who had followed him into civilian life because she believed in what they were doing. At Hyun, who kept this old ship running through skill and dedication. This was his crew now. This was his home. I appreciate the offer, Daehyun. I really do. But I think I'm right where I need to be. The Morning Star might not be much, but she's mine. This crew is my family. Daehyun nodded, understanding in his eyes. I figured you'd say that. But the offer stands. Anytime you change your mind, you let me know. I will. Stay safe out there. You too, and Jiho. Try to avoid starting any more wars, okay? Jiho laughed. I'll do my best. The communication ended. Outside, the human fleet prepared to depart. The Vrellan ships were towing the damaged Bloodfang away, its crew in disgrace. The council ship was already gone, moving on to other duties. Within hours, news of the incident spread across the galaxy. Communication networks carried the story from one system to another. A small human cargo ship had been attacked by a Vrellan warship and had won. The David and Goliath story resonated with many species. On trading stations and colony worlds, people talked about the brave captain who refused to be a victim. Some called him a hero, others called him lucky. But everyone agreed on one thing: humans were not to be underestimated. Pirate groups across the sector began avoiding human ships. The risk wasn't worth the reward anymore. If even a cargo hauler could be secretly armed and dangerous, what else might the humans be hiding? In the halls of the Vrellan military, officers began asking uncomfortable questions. How many other incidents like this had occurred? How much damage had their reputation suffered? Admiral Kreth faced an investigation into his fleet's activities. 6 months passed after the incident with the Bloodfang. Life aboard the Morning Star had changed in small but significant ways. The ship still ran cargo between colonies, still made the same routes through space, but now other vessels gave them respectful distance. Pirates avoided them entirely. Even legitimate military patrols acknowledged them with courtesy, rather than suspicious scans. The story had spread far and wide. Captain Jiho Park and his crew had become something of a legend. Cargo haulers and bars told exaggerated versions where the Morning Star destroyed entire fleets. Military academies studied the battle as an example of superior tactics overcoming superior firepower. Children on colony worlds played games where they pretended to be the brave captain fighting off aliens. Jiho found all the attention embarrassing. He just wanted to do his job and be left alone. But Mirai and Hyun enjoyed it, especially when they stopped at stations and other crews bought them drinks. On this particular morning, they were docked at Frontier Station 7, a trading hub on the edge of civilized space. Jiho was reviewing cargo manifests when Hyun brought someone up to the bridge. "Captain, this is Woo Jin Han. He wants to join the crew." Jiho looked up at the young man standing in his bridge. Woo Jin couldn't have been more than 25 years old. He stood straight, military posture with nervous energy radiating from him. His eyes were bright with excitement and hope. "I didn't know we were hiring," Jiho said carefully. "You weren't advertising, sir, but I heard about the Morning Star at the academy. I graduated 3 months ago, top of my class in pilot training. I want to learn from the best, and everyone says that's you." Jiho studied the young man. He saw himself 20 years ago in those eager eyes, full of confidence, ready to prove himself, believing he could take on the universe. "This isn't a military ship," Jiho said. "We haul cargo. It's boring work most of the time. Long hours, empty space, nothing to see but stars. I know, sir. But the academy teaches you how to fly. It doesn't teach you how to think, how to survive when everything goes wrong." "You can teach me that," Mirai spoke up from her station. "Captain, we could use another set of hands, especially someone with recent training. Our tactics are from the border war. Newer techniques might help." Jiho looked at Hyun, who shrugged. "Kid seems eager. Reminds me of me when I first joined." "That's not a recommendation," Jiho muttered, but he was smiling. He turned back to Woo Jin. "You understand this is a civilian vessel? We avoid fights when we can. What happened with the Vrellans was an exception, not the rule." "I understand, Captain. And the pay is terrible. You'd make twice as much on a colony patrol ship." "I'm not here for the money," Jiho sighed. He knew he was going to regret this. "Fine, trial period of 3 months. You pull your weight, follow orders, and don't complain. If you do well, we'll talk about making it permanent." Woo Jin's face lit up like someone had given him the greatest gift in the universe. "Thank you, Captain. You won't regret this." "I already regret it," Jiho said. But there was warmth in his voice. "Hyun, show him to the spare quarters. Mirai, plot a course for the Chandler colony. We leave in 2 hours." The Morning Star departed Frontier Station 7 with its new crew member. Woo Jin threw himself into his duties with enthusiasm, learning everything he could from the more experienced crew. He asked endless questions, practiced maneuvers in the simulator, and studied old battle recordings. For 2 weeks, everything went smoothly. They delivered cargo, picked up new loads, and traveled through peaceful space. Wu Jin learned that most of space travel was indeed boring, but he didn't complain. Then, on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, everything changed. "Captain, I'm picking up a distress signal," Mirai announced. "It's from New Harmony Colony on the rim. They're under attack." Jiho was on his feet immediately. "Put it through." A panicked voice filled the bridge. "This is New Harmony Colony. We're being raided by unknown vessels. They're hitting the residential sectors. We have civilians trapped. Security forces are overwhelmed. Please, anyone who can hear this, we need help. Our children are in danger." Static cut through the transmission. Explosions could be heard in the background. Then the signal died. Mirai brought up the colony's location on the navigation display. "We're the closest ship. But Captain, local authorities are at least 6 hours away. By the time they arrive," she didn't need to finish. They all knew what would happen. The raiders would take what they wanted and leave. People would die. Children would be orphaned or worse. Wu Jin looked at Jiho with an expression that was both hopeful and afraid. "Captain? Are we going to help them?" Jiho stared at the display. Technically, this wasn't their problem. They were cargo haulers. They had deliveries to make, schedules to keep. Getting involved could mean damage to the ship, injuries to the crew, or even death. But he remembered the war. He remembered colonies that burned because help didn't arrive in time. He remembered the faces of people who had lost everything because someone decided it wasn't their problem. He looked at his crew. Mirai met his eyes with understanding. She knew what he was thinking. Hyun nodded slowly, already moving to his engineering controls. They had been here before, faced this choice before. "Mirai, change course," Jiho said quietly. "Get us to New Harmony at maximum speed. Hyun, prep the weapon systems. Wu Jin, you're about to get your first real lesson in what this crew does." "What's that, sir?" Wu Jin asked. "We help people who can't help themselves, even when it's dangerous, especially when it's dangerous." The Morning Star turned, its engines flaring bright as it accelerated toward New Harmony Colony. They pushed the ship harder than usual, squeezing every bit of speed from the old engines. Hyun monitored the systems carefully, making sure nothing overheated or broke. 30 minutes later, they dropped out of hyperspace near New Harmony. What they saw was chaos. 5 pirate vessels were attacking the colony. They were firing on buildings, landing troops to loot and terrorize. The colony's small security force was fighting back, but they were massively outgunned. Smoke rose from damaged structures. People were running through the streets. "Reading the pirate vessels," Mirai reported, her voice tight. "Mixed species crew. They're broadcasting no identification. Professional raiders from the look of their equipment." One of the pirate ships noticed the Morning Star arriving. They probably thought it was just another cargo ship to rob. They sent a fighter squadron to chase it away. "Here they come," Wu Jin said, watching 6 small fighter craft heading toward them. "Battle stations," Jiho ordered. His voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. "Mirai, defensive pattern alpha. Hyun, weapons free. Wu Jin, watch and learn." The Morning Star transformed once again from harmless cargo hauler to warship. Weapon ports opened, shields activated. The civilian transponder shut down, replaced by combat protocols. The pirate fighters suddenly realized they had made a mistake. But by then, it was too late. Mirai sent the ship into a rolling dive that brought their main guns to bear. Jiho called targets with cool precision. Hyun fired with practiced accuracy. 2 pirate fighters were destroyed in the first pass. The remaining 4 scattered, trying to regroup. "Don't let them get organized," Jiho said. "Mirai, pursue. Stay on them." The Morning Star chased the fighters like a hawk after sparrows. One by one, they fell to precise weapons fire. Within 3 minutes, all 6 fighters were disabled or destroyed. The larger pirate vessels noticed the battle. They began turning their attention from the colony to this new threat. One of them broadcasted a message. "Unknown vessel, withdraw immediately or be destroyed." "This colony is ours." Jiho didn't bother responding. Instead, he opened a channel to the colony's security force. "New Harmony Security. This is Captain Jiho Park of the Morning Star. We're here to help. Coordinate with us. Tell us where you need fire support." The security commander's voice was shaking with relief and disbelief. "Captain Park? The Captain Park from the Vrelin incident?" "Sir, we've got civilians trapped in the eastern residential sector. If you can draw the raiders away, Consider it done. All ships, this is the Morning Star. You have 5 seconds to leave this system. If you're still here after that, I'm coming for you. The pirates didn't take the threat seriously. They outnumbered the Morning Star 5-1. They had more weapons, more armor, more crew. But they didn't have Jiho Park. The battle that followed became another legend. The Morning Star moved through the pirate formation like a dancer, avoiding their heavy weapons while striking at vulnerable points. Jiho used every trick he had learned in 37 combat missions. He used the colony's defensive satellites as cover. He predicted enemy movements and was always one step ahead. Wu Jin watched in amazement as his captain orchestrated the fight. Every order was precise. Every maneuver had purpose. This wasn't reckless heroics. This was professional military excellence. 2 pirate ships were disabled quickly, their engines destroyed by torpedo strikes. A third tried to flee and was crippled before it could jump to hyperspace. The remaining 2 realized they were fighting something far more dangerous than they had expected. All vessels retreat, the pirate commander ordered. Abort the raid! The pirates ran, jumping to hyperspace in a disorganized panic. They left behind their disabled ships, their troops on the ground, and their wounded.